The whisper in the library. There's a hush that blankets the library, a silence so profound it can almost be felt. The air is thick with the scent of aged paper and leather bindings, a perfume of forgotten stories and unspoken desires. I wander the rows of bookshelves, fingers trailing along spines, feeling the texture of each tome as if they were the skin of someone I long to know. It was during one of those innocuous afternoons that I first noticed her, a presence tucked away in the back corner, hidden behind a display of dust-covered books. She was absorbed in a novel, brows furrowed in concentration, and I felt an inexplicable pull toward her. There was something magnetic about the way her fingers danced across the pages, as if caressing a lover. I tried to focus on my own reading, but my curiosity swirled like a tempest. I could almost hear the whispers between the lines of her story. The atmosphere shifted as I imagined her thoughts, daring and wild, perhaps laced with a hint of shame. A tightening in my chest mixed intrigue with trepidation. Days turned into weeks, and I couldn't shake the feeling that our fates were intertwined. I found myself lingering in that corner of the library, searching for her presence. I began to imagine her glances. Was she aware of me? Did she feel the same pull? My heart raced at the thought, a rush that left me breathless. One rainy afternoon, she finally looked up. Our eyes locked, and in that fleeting moment, an electric current surged between us. I felt my cheeks flush, warmth spreading through my body. It was a simple gaze, yet it held a world of unspoken words, a promise of something forbidden. I could smell the dampness in the air, punctuated by the hint of her floral perfume, intoxicating and overwhelming. In a fit of courage, I approached her. "What are you reading?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She glanced at the cover, a sly smile on her lips. "Something about hidden desires," she replied, her eyes sparkling with mischief. A thrill coursed through me, igniting curiosity and stirring something deep within me. As our conversations grew bolder, I discovered secrets that both intrigued and terrified me. Tales of longing, of fantasies unfulfilled. She spoke of things that stirred my imagination, ideas dancing on the edge of propriety. Each revelation sent shivers down my spine, filling me with a blend of excitement and anxiety. One day, as the library emptied around us, she leaned closer, her breath warm against my ear. "Have you ever thought about what lies beyond the pages?" The question lingered in the air, thick with implication. I could hear my heart pounding, a primal rhythm echoing my inner turmoil. I wanted to know what she was truly asking, to dive into the depths of our shared curiosity. The library felt like a sanctuary, yet also a cage, trapping us within the confines of our desires. I began to notice the subtle touches, a brush of her hand against mine, a lingering gaze that held a promise of more. Each encounter heightened the tension between us, a delicious game of cat and mouse. Then came the day when the air between us shifted. She invited me to a secluded alcove, a hidden nook filled with the scent of dust and forgotten stories. My pulse quickened as I followed her, anticipation thickening the atmosphere. She gestured for me to sit beside her, and I could hardly breathe as I took my place inches away. "Imagine," she began, her voice a sultry whisper, her eyes sparkling as mischief, sent a jolt through me, her words wrapping around my mind like a vine. She spoke of things that tugged at the edges of my morality, weaving fantasies both thrilling and wrong. The tension was palpable, a thick fog enveloping us. I felt the heat radiating from her body, the allure of the forbidden drawing me closer. My mind raced, caught in a whirlwind of excitement, fear, and an insatiable curiosity that begged to be explored. But as our hands brushed again, a rush of shame washed over me. What were we doing? This wasn't just innocent exploration, it felt like a dance on the edge of a knife. The thrill of the unknown clashed with societal expectations, leaving me in profound inner conflict. Yet as I looked into her eyes, I found something that silenced my doubts, A spark of understanding, a shared yearning for something beyond the ordinary. The boundary between right and wrong blurred, and for a fleeting moment, the world outside ceased to exist. Then, just as quickly as it began, the moment shattered. A noise echoed from the main room, reality crashing back in. She pulled away, the unbroken connection severed in an instant. We exchanged nervous glances, our breaths mingling in the heavy space between us. "Perhaps another time," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, tinged with regret. I nodded, my heart racing, the taste of what could have been lingering in the air. As I left the library that day, I felt a mix of exhilaration and unease. The encounter opened a door to a world I had only dreamed of, yet it left me grappling with an unshakable sense of shame. What began as innocent curiosity had spiraled into a tempest of forbidden intrigue, leaving me teetering on the precipice of something unnameable. And as I glanced back, catching one last glimpse of her silhouette framed by the dusty shelves, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The echoes of our shared secrets lingered in the air, a tantalizing reminder of the path not taken, the boundaries yet to be crossed.
A Confession of Shadows. It was a sweltering afternoon in early July when I received an unexpected invitation. My neighbor, Claire, an enigmatic artist, had returned from a lengthy retreat, her presence a blend of allure and mystery. I had always admired her from a distance, captivated by her laughter echoing through the thin walls and the soft rustle of fabric as she moved in her apartment. That day, I stepped into her world. As I entered her studio, the air thick with the scent of oil paints and turpentine, I felt a rush of anticipation mixed with dread. The walls were adorned with her creations, wild, abstract pieces pulsing with emotion. Claire stood at the center, fingers stained with color, her hair artfully chaotic. She looked at me with a spark in her eyes, as if holding a secret that beckoned me to delve deeper. "Come, let me show you something," she said, leading me to a shadowy corner of the room. The light was dim, the atmosphere charged. My heart raced, a mix of nerves and excitement coursing through me. I was stepping into a realm that felt both thrilling and forbidden. Claire unveiled her latest piece, a tapestry of colors that danced and swirled. As she spoke passionately, I found myself entranced, not just by her art, but by her proximity. The warmth radiating from her body mingled with the faint, sweet aroma of her perfume. Every brush of her arm against mine sent ripples of electricity through my skin. "Do you ever feel like you're floating?" she asked suddenly, her gaze piercing through the dim light. "Like you're on the edge of something you shouldn't explore?" The question lingered, heavy with implication. I hesitated, my unspoken curiosities surfacing like bubbles in a glass of champagne. "I suppose," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "It can feel exhilarating, yet terrifying." She stepped closer, her eyes narrowing with intrigue. "What are you afraid of?" It felt like a challenge to peel back the layers of my facade. I could feel her warm breath brushing against my skin, igniting emotions I'd kept locked away. With each passing moment, the space between us became charged with tension. My pulse quickened, a mix of shame and something darker, a curiosity tugging at me insistently. What lay beyond our everyday lives? What secrets were we burying under societal norms? Then, without warning, Claire took my hand and led me to a secluded part of the studio. The dim light cocooned us as she leaned closer, her warmth enveloping me. "Sometimes," she murmured, "the most beautiful experiences are those we're told to avoid." Her words were a silk ribbon binding our shared moment with an unspoken understanding of the taboo. As our hands intertwined, a rush of warmth spread through me, forcing me to confront the boundaries I had drawn. I was standing at the precipice, teetering between exhilaration and dread. Doubts crept in.
what would happen if someone saw us? What would it mean for both of us? The thrill of that thought wrapped around me, tightening with each heartbeat. Claire's fingers brushed against my wrist, and I felt my skin prickling under her touch, a mix of shame and excitement flooding my senses. She was a tempest, and I was caught in her storm. My mind raced, spinning tales of the forbidden, of the shadows we conceal in the light of day. The notion of stepping beyond our roles as mere neighbors danced tantalizingly close, yet felt impossibly far. The moment hung heavy between us, a suspended breath filled with unspoken desires and fear of the unknown. I could see her lips part, as if she were about to confess something that would shatter the delicate balance we had established. But then the weight of reality crashed in, the world outside pressing in. I pulled back slightly, the air thick with unarticulated thoughts. Claire's expression shifted, disappointment mingling with understanding of our complexities. The shadows in the room wrapped around us, a comforting embrace, tinged with chill. "Maybe we're not meant to understand everything," she finally said, her voice softer, almost wistful. "Perhaps it's enough to feel, to let curiosity linger without resolution." As I stepped back, the taste of that moment lingered, sweet, forbidden, intoxicating. I was left with a swirl of emotions, a mix of exhilaration and restraint, the edges of shame and intrigue blurring into an ambiguous haze. Claire smiled knowingly, her eyes reflecting the depths of our shared experience. And in that fleeting moment, I knew we had crossed an invisible line. Walking away, the world outside felt different, charged with newfound awareness. The shadows of what we shared clung to me, leaving me in a whirlpool of conflicting emotions, the taste of the forbidden lingering in the air. What we had touched was both exhilarating and terrifying, leaving me with questions that would float unanswered in the corners of my mind. And as I stepped back into the sunlight, I couldn't help but wonder, was it the beginning of something new, or merely a whisper of what could never be? The ambiguity hung in the air like a ghost, a tantalizing secret begging to be explored, yet shrouded in mystery.
Naughty Confession: The Shadows of Curiosity. I've always been drawn to the edge of propriety, a tightrope walk between the comforts of everyday life and the tantalizing whispers of the forbidden. It began one evening at a friend's gathering, a cozy affair filled with laughter, music, and the faint notes of danger lurking in the corners. The air was thick with the scent of spiced red wine, mingling with the warm, sweet aroma of chocolate desserts on the table. I leaned against the wall, half listening to conversations, half lost in my thoughts. Then I caught sight of her, Amanda. She was sitting on the edge of the couch, her laughter infectious, her eyes sparkling as she shared a story, but it was the way her fingers danced over the fabric of her dress that held me captive. The silky material hugged her curves, clinging to her skin as if it shared her secrets. As the night wore on, the atmosphere shifted. The music slowed to a sultry rhythm, and a playful tension filled the room. I felt drawn to Amanda like a moth to a flame, my heart racing as I imagined the possibilities. What would it feel like to touch her? To explore the contours of her body beyond the fabric that separated us? My thoughts spiraled, and I felt a flutter of shame mixed with an electric thrill. I was aware of my desire, yet it felt so wrong. In that moment, I was caught between wanting to step closer and the fear of crossing an unseen boundary. Eventually, the party began to dwindle. Friends drifted off into the night, leaving Amanda and me behind, our laughter echoing in the silence. With each passing second, the distance between us felt like a chasm, yet I could see her eyes flicker with an unspoken invitation. The tension turned palpable, a weight pressing against my skin, urging me to breach that boundary. "Do you want to help me clean up?" she asked, a coy smile playing on her lips. I nodded, hardly trusting my voice, and we began to gather empty glasses and plates. As we worked side by side, our shoulders brushed, sending jolts of electricity through me. Her presence was intoxicating, and I couldn't help but steal glances at her, drinking in the way her hair fell softly over her shoulders, the graceful curve of her neck. Then, in a moment of reckless abandon, I tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The contact was fleeting, but it ignited something primal within me. Her breath hitched, and I caught the faintest blush creeping across her cheeks. A wave of exhilaration crashed over me. Was this the beginning of something forbidden? The thought sent my heart racing. "Why did you do that?" she asked, softly, her voice barely above a whisper, but the curiosity in her eyes was undeniable. "I don't know," I replied, my heart pounding. "Maybe I've always wanted to." The room felt suddenly smaller, our breaths mingling in the charged silence. I was acutely aware of the contrasting smells of her perfume, floral and intoxicating, and the lingering scent of wine on my skin. I could feel the heat radiating from her, a magnetic force pulling me closer. The world outside faded away, leaving just the two of us suspended in that moment of uncertainty. I stepped forward, drawn by an invisible thread. As I leaned closer, our eyes locked, and I could see her hesitation flickering like a candle in the wind. What were we both afraid of? The boundaries felt real, yet achingly fragile. In that breathless space, I reached for her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against mine. I didn't know what I expected, perhaps a spark, perhaps a rebuke. Instead, she intertwined her fingers with mine, a silent acceptance that sent a shiver through me. But then doubt crept in. I pulled back slightly, the weight of my conscience crashing over me. What was I doing? What would this mean for us? Would this lead to regret or something deeper? My mind swirled with conflicting emotions, tangled in desire and fear. The silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. I could see the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, the way her breath quickened as she processed the moment. We stood on the precipice, but would we leap or retreat back into the safety of our lives? "Maybe we should just..." But she cut me off. "Maybe we should see where this goes," she replied, her voice steady despite the tremor in her fingers. The challenge in her eyes ignited something deep within me, and I felt the thrill of the unknown surge through me once more. Just as I was about to respond, the door creaked open, and a shared friend stepped in, oblivious to the storm brewing between us. The moment shattered, reality rushing back in like a cold wave, bringing the weight of shame. We shared a glance, a fleeting acknowledgement of the unspoken tension, before I stepped back, reality settling around us like a shroud. The door swung closed behind our friend, but the question lingered. What were we on the cusp of? As I helped Amanda finish tidying up, the energy shifted to awkward laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling of what could have been. The night ended with a promise of a future that felt both thrilling and deeply forbidden. Days turned into weeks, and the memory of that moment haunted me. It was a secret tucked away, a confession left unsaid, a desire unfulfilled. Shadows of curiosity loomed large, and every time I crossed paths with Amanda, the air crackled with unspoken words and uncharted territory. In the depths of my mind, I wondered, was it purely shame, or was it something more that lingered between us? The intrigue of the unknown tugged at me, leaving a sense of longing and a question that would remain unanswered. What if we had crossed that line?